Avanti West Coast and Caledonian sleeper services between Lancaster and Carlisle are experiencing disruptions. Stay informed about these delays and plan your travels accordingly. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
You could be the next big winner on the road in this brand new Alnag Baron 560 motorhome, courtesy of Marquis Leisure. Imagine the fun you could have in this luxurious home from home worth over £67,000. We'll also give you £5,000 in tax-free cash to make your next getaway a great one. And it could be all yours. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Very, very good evening to you. How you doing? Welcome to GBN Tonight with me, Martin Daubney. Now, in yet another bombshell migration exclusive from Mark White, the Home Office is today under fire for a shocking waste of money as we reveal the eye-watering tens of thousands of pounds of taxpayers' money, your money, blown on entertaining migrants at a Kent processing centre. Plus, in a chilling new twist, a bombshell dossier from a top child abuse lawyer has landed on the desk of Safeguarding Minister Jess Phillips. It claims that over 72,000 British children could have been at risk of grooming gangs in Keighley and the Bradford district alone. The question now, just how massive is this rape gang scandal set to become? And is your toddler, that's right, your toddler, transgender? Well, I spoke to the renowned transgender rights activist who lavished praise on the NHS guidance that says that, yes, toddlers could be trans.
I really, really welcome this from the NHS, and I just want to say thank you very much. This is the NHS that we all know and love.
Welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have your company. Toddlers, can they really be trans? Most toddlers believe that the moon is made of cheese. Toddlers will believe anything you tell them. I know. I've had two of my own. It's astonishing that the NHS can actually believe they're capable of making a decision that could impact the rest of their lives. I'll be joined on the show later on by Dr. Helen Webberley, the trans GP, who welcomes this news and thinks we should encourage toddlers on the route to becoming transgender. What on earth do you make of that? Let me know. Get in touch, gbnews.com/your say. That's your headlines, and here is Lewis Mackenzie.
Thank you very much, Martin. Good evening. It's 2 minutes after 7. Here are your latest GB News headlines. The Prime Minister says the UK is in talks with a number of countries about return hubs abroad for migrants awaiting deportation, although that will not include Albania. Sir Keir Starmer is in the country for talks with the Albanian Prime Minister to agree separate measures to crack down on organised crime and illegal migration. The government hopes to send failed asylum seekers to return hubs in Balkan countries once they've exhausted all avenues of appeal, although they will not be in Albania. Sir Keir Starmer is looking to collaborate with other European countries to fulfil his pledge to stop the boats.
What now we want to do, and we're having discussions on, talks on, is return hubs, which is where someone's been through the system in the UK, they need to be returned, and we have to make sure they're returned effectively, and we'll do that if we can through return hubs. So that's what the talk's about. I would say in this area, no single measure is going to be the measure that is, if you like, a silver bullet. By putting it all together, arrests, seizures, agreements with other countries, returning people who shouldn't be here, and return hubs, if we can, through these talks, to add to our armoury, will allow us to bear down on this vile trade and to make sure that we stop those people crossing the channel.
However, Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp says the return hub scheme will not offer a deterrent.
Better than nothing, but it won't work. The point is it won't work because most illegal immigrants crossing the channel are from nationalities where they will get their asylum claim granted because the laws are so soft. We think they need to be tougher. So they're never going to end up in these return hubs. So it simply won't work. It is a con on the British public for Keir Starmer to claim these return hubs will have any practical effect. The truth is they won't really, and he's had a big slap in the face when Albanian Prime Minister Edi Rama just this morning told him he was not going to have a returns hub in Albania.
GB News has learned that the Home Office is spending tens of thousands of pounds on entertainment for migrants at a Kent processing facility. The results of a Freedom of Information request showed that more than £60,000 has gone on TVs with satellite channels, gaming systems and other entertainment at a Manston processing centre. The facility is only housing migrants for an average of up to 48 hours after arriving in Kent before they are sent off to hotels and other government accommodations. A Home Office spokesperson has told GB News the majority of the expenditure occurred under the previous government. It was used on TV monitors, which provide information and instructions for those at Manston. This new government is now reviewing this spend. The Chancellor has welcomed new figures that show the economy has grown more than expected in the first 3 months of the year. She's been meeting workers and giving an address at the Rolls-Royce factory in Derby this morning as new figures show that GDP increased by 0.7% between January and March, slightly stronger than economic forecasts. The Chancellor says that it proves that the government is moving in the right direction, but accepts that there is much more to do.
But today's numbers are incredibly welcome. 0.7% growth in just the first 3 months of this year. Set to be the fastest growing economy in the G7. And you can see growth really across the piece. Growth in services, growth in manufacturing, growth in business investment, exports and also in household spending. And I think that reflects some of the choices we've made as a government. Bring stability back to the economy, which has enabled the Bank of England to cut interest rates 4 times now. Increase the minimum wage, putting more money in the pockets of working people.
Well, those are your latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Lewis Mackenzie. More from me in an hour's time.
Thank you, Lewis, and welcome back to GBN Tonight with me, Martin Daubney. Now, yet another superb, sensational GB News exclusive from our man Mark White. The Home Office has been accused of a shocking waste of money as tens of thousands of pounds of taxpayers' money, yes, your money, has been spent on entertaining migrants at a Kent processing facility. Now, this comes on the same day that Sir Keir Starmer was brutally snubbed by the Albanian Prime Minister. He rejected our Prime Minister's plea to host a returns hub for failed asylum seekers on Albanian soil. Now, long live cosy hotels for asylum seekers. Let's join now our man, Mark White, our Home and Security Editor. Mark White, another superb exclusive, and it's abundantly clear that once again illegal immigrants coming on dinghies are living the life of Riley at the expense of British taxpayers. Tell us more.
Well, I think what this shows is really just the extent of the wraparound services for these small boat migrants. Now, we're used to hearing about the hotels at a cost of £4.5 million a day, but actually all of the other services that are used to wrap around these migrants are much more expensive, and they include some smaller, maybe incidental expenses, but still in their own right, a significant sum. And this particular Freedom of Information request that we've received now shows that the government has spent £60,000+ on television and video games packages at the Manston Processing Centre in Kent. Now, Manston is one of these places where you just step off the boat, you're then taken to Manston, you're only there for a day or two before you then go off to your government-funded hotel or other accommodation, of which, of course, you receive your television and your internet for free and all kinds of other care packages. But there's, I think, more than a few eyebrows have been raised at the need, really, to provide televisions, 14 of them in the marquees, Xbox and PlayStation and Nintendo games, 20 of them in the form of consoles for these migrants as well. The former head of Border Force, Tony Smith, has said it's a shocking waste of money and it sends out the wrong message. It adds, he believes, to the pull factors. Another senior security source I've been speaking to said it's absolutely crazy that really it seems like migrants who cross the English Channel illegally are being rewarded for bad behaviour, because these self-same migrants have survived for months, trekking, of course, from their home countries and then camping out in northern France in the woods there without TVs or video games and managing quite well. Well, the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, was asked about this exclusive by our political editor, Christopher Hope. I think he dodged the question a bit, but make your own mind up.
We found evidence at Manston, one of the processing centres, £80,000 being spent on satellite TV, video games in this one location. How isn't that a pull factor? The hotels we offer to migrants arriving in the UK, isn't that a pull factor to make people, encourage them to make that journey across the Channel?
Let me be absolutely clear why we're in the mess we're in. The last government had an open borders experiment. Many people came to the United Kingdom and they didn't process the claims. So you've got tens of thousands of people whose claims haven't been processed. Therefore, they couldn't be returned under the last government. They were put in hotels. That's not acceptable. And the British taxpayers picking up the bill. That's why we've allocated all the extra resource to processing the claims. Where we've processed the claims and people shouldn't be in the country, they've been removed. 24,000 have been removed. That's the highest figure for nearly a decade. They're out of the country. They had no right to be here. That is the way we bring down these numbers. That's the way we get people out of hotels. Under the last government, there were, I think, 400 hotels. It's down. We've got it down to just over 200. That's not good enough, but it does show that we're making a difference.
Yeah, definitely swerved that question from Christopher Hope, I think. But in terms of the wraparound services that we were talking about, you know, there's free healthcare, free dental, there's clothing that's provided to migrants as well as soon as they land. Now, many people would say that actually that's a responsible thing to do. They've been living rough, they're disease infested, clean clothes are required. But should we be paying for them? Denmark, for instance, they seize assets from migrants to help pay for the likes of clothing. But not only are we giving them clothing, but they're getting T-shirts with natty little Union Jack logos on them. And these dancing videos, and I know you love to see on a regular basis, Martin, illustrate that perfectly. Let's take a look at this. I think think, if I'm honest, Martin, we've probably seen better hotel dancers than this particular chap, but he's there, you get the message, and he's not the only one. We've got some other videos that we can show you of more migrants wearing their brand new T-shirts with the Union flag emblazoned on them, and they're at multiple locations, some in their hotel room, out on the street, others who are at key landmarks like Buckingham Palace or at the Etihad Stadium, all showing off their new T-shirts and clearly enjoying the fact that they are here in the UK, having fled whatever they fled from. But the point about these videos that we make a lot, but it's worth repeating. These videos are being made with the people smugglers in mind, because they lift them, they package them up and send them out around the globe, and then people, potential customers, are seeing these videos and they are being potentially, in a lot of cases, attracted to make that journey to try to get on these small boats and across to the UK.
Well, Mark White, another sensational exclusive. You're the best in the business. And once again, the evidence is abundantly clear before our very own eyes. It's a conveyor belt, and it's one British taxpayers are funding. Many viewers watching the show can only dream of sending their kids to Buckingham Palace, can only dream of a VIP tour of the Etihad Stadium, the home of Manchester City, and free video games, free TV, again, paid for by the British taxpayer. Mark White, superb. Thank you, as ever, my friend. Superb as ever. Now, a Home Office spokesperson told GB News this. The majority of the expenditure occurred under the previous government. It was used on TV monitors which provide information and instructions for those at Manston. And this new government is now reviewing this spend. So there we go. Once again, blaming the previous government. Thank you very much, Mark White. And the Prime Minister has announced that failed asylum seekers will be sent to return hubs in third countries while they await deportation.
What now we want to do, and we're having discussions on, talks on, is return hubs, which is where someone's been through the system in the UK, they need to be returned, and we have to make sure they're returned effectively, and we'll do that if we can through return hubs. So that's what the talk's about. I would say in this area, no single measure is going to be the measure that is, if you like, a silver bullet. By putting it all together, arrests, seizures, agreements with other countries, returning people who shouldn't be here, and return hubs, if we can, through these talks, to add to our armoury, will allow us to bear down on this vile trade and to make sure that we stop those people crossing the channel.
One more tough talk there from the Prime Minister, but it's worth pointing out that Albania's Prime Minister, well, he dashed Sir Keir Starmer's hopes of processing failed migrants in his country. He refused to allow one of these hubs on Albanian soil. Astonishing that it wasn't even cleared in advance that this could even happen in that country. Well, let's continue this conversation now. I'm joined by Dean Morgan, who's the Director of First Migration. Dean, welcome to the show. You may have seen there the videos of asylum seekers who came here on dinghies, dancing in hotels, wearing T-shirts, going to Buckingham Palace, all at the British taxpayers' expense. It makes a mockery of our country. British taxpayers are sick to the back teeth of it. What say you?
I couldn't agree more. I mean, it makes a mockery of everything because, you know, we're at a time where people seem to have less faith than ever, in their civil institutions. And so things like this coming out just kind of, further denigrates that faith. There's no deterrent. Is clearly the problem. I mean, why are we still talking about this 30 years, since Tony Blair and Gordon Brown's time, where mass migration was experimented with? That's 3 decades. I'm 45. And I've been practicing immigration law for 20 years. And, you can't have this level of migration. It has to be done generationally. Otherwise, it's not good for the migrants. It's not good for the indigenous population. And you can see the social cohesion of the UK just breaking down. But when people in the UK are struggling, they're all here lawfully. They followed all the processes. If you've come here, you've paid thousands in fees, filled out forms, gone through months of trauma with, the Home Office to get your partner here and do it all right. But then you've just got, 12,000 boats pull up, and then you're rewarding them And you said that right, the gentleman before was completely right. You're rewarding people. Now, at least with what Keir Starmer's saying that they're trying to do about return hubs is at least a deterrent. Because this isn't sustainable. The UK is going bankrupt. No one wants to buy our government debt. This will come to an end at some point, and it will affect all of us. You can't just allow it to go on forever. I see things in Ireland now on TikTok and YouTube and stuff that shocks me. There's a rise of nationalism that is coming from an out of control immigration system. And look, certain things like this are too emotive. The politically, it cannot be dealt with. The right and the left will never agree on this. The court should step in. We're talking about the UN, Refugee Convention, and the principle of non-refoulement, non-return. Sure. Well, the return hub solved that problem, but things like this don't, really give the British people much faith in the system, do they?
OK, Dean Morgan, Director of First Migration. We have to leave it there. And just to add, I don't think anybody watching this show would deny the fact that the UK should be home to those who are genuinely in need of asylum. We saw that with Hong Kong. We saw that with Ukraine. We saw that with Afghanistan. But this is clearly a separate thing. It clearly seems to many people that people are taking the mickey out of our hospitality. Dean Morgan, thank you very much for joining us tonight on the show. Now, up next, could your toddler, yes, you heard that right, your toddler be transgender? Well, I'll be speaking to someone next who thinks that, yes, they could be, and also that the NHS should be medicalising them and encouraging them. What do you think her answer was to this astonishing question? Well, you will not want to miss that. Tune in next.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain's newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
John, you are an extraordinary man. You are 100 years and 6 months.
Correct, yeah.
How do you do it? You look fantastic.
Just not overdoing it with living and that. No, not going out and getting drunk and all that. What can I say? Just lived a normal life.
Yeah. Now, you joined the Navy in 1943. You were a very young man.
Yeah. I was just turned 18.
How nervous were you? Were you very nervous?
No, I wanted to go.
To fight for king and country?
Yeah.
And, of course, one day, your own ship was hit by a flying bomb.
Yeah. Yeah, apparently what happened there on the second day of landings at Anzio, and this was on the evening, because what we used to have to do was what they called dusk and dawn action stations, which is the worst time for visibility. And this particular night, 23rd of January, I'll never forget it. We never even heard them. Must have been that high up. And they had either glider bombs or torpedoes on. So whether it was a bomb or a torpedo that hit us, but all I was on the stern of the ship, what they called the X-gun. And when I looked round, there was a terrific bang. And when I looked round, the front half of the ship was gone.
Gosh.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is our country, and we think it's amazing. From high tea to the high street, we love it all. Even the rain, we like that too. There's nowhere else we'd rather be. That's why we're here to be the fearless champion of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we are GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to GBN Tonight with me, your host, Martin Daubney. Now, the NHS is treating nursery-aged children who believe that they are transgender after caving in to trans activists and watering down their own guidance. Well, earlier on today, I spoke to the trans rights activist and the founder of the Gender GP Clinic, Helen Webberley. Dr. Helen Webberley, welcome to GBN Tonight. Thank you for joining us. There's new NHS guidelines out saying that they can treat nursery-aged children who believe they are transgender. I put it to you, nursery-aged children can believe the moon is made of cheese. How on earth are they meant to have the critical faculties to know that they can change gender?
But I think we've got to think about what we mean by treat. And I really, really welcome this from the NHS. And I just want to say thank you very much. This is the NHS that we all know and love, where nobody is turned away on the count of age or ability or gender or anything like that. And what the NHS is saying here is that, yes, if you have a child under the age of 7 who is saying they are transgender, who is asking what gender means, if the family is struggling with that gender identity or whatever the child is saying, that yes, they will welcome them to sit and talk and go through it with a professional person for guidance and support. And I think that's a really marvellous initiative for the NHS. Thank you, really thank you from the trans community for that one.
Do you believe, against the body of evidence of science and against the legal rules, that it's even possible for a human being to change sex?
Well, it's not the legal rules. Is it possible for someone to change sex? I mean, if you're talking about chromosomes, XX to XY or XY to XX, you can't change that, no. But what we're talking about is gender identity. And that's very different from sex that you're assigned at birth. And gender identity is something that is deeply within. It's a very personal thing. And that, you know, is assigned at birth. We all guess that someone's going to be a boy or a girl, and actually as that person develops they can say, you know, that wasn't right, I'm actually a boy or a girl, whichever.
Well, I put it to you that these children are learning about transgenderism, thinking it's a good idea, and oftentimes the body of evidence showed us a huge amount of these kids are autistic. Ideas are planted in their mind and they think it's a good thing, but really it's a fantasy.
I think we need to be really careful of being respectful to people who are on the autistic spectrum or wherever they are. You know, being autistic is very, very different from gender identity, and I think we do need to be very careful.
There's a huge crossover of those who are autistic and believe they are transgender. You must admit that, because that's the reality.
There is a crossover. I wouldn't say it's a huge crossover. There is a connection, if you like. There's that some people who have autism will also have gender incongruence and vice versa. But that link is nowhere near as huge as society would like us to believe.
Do you think it's acceptable for doctors, those who practice transgender issues, such as yourself, to be trying to get hormones to children, full stop, and secondly, without the permission of their parents?
I think, you know, the cross-sex hormones, gender-affirming hormones, hormones to induce puberty in adolescents are vital. Puberty is a vital process for all children, whether they're cisgender or transgender. And, you know, medicine and research shows that, you know, affirming a young person's gender really, really does decrease the risk of mental health issues and self-harm and suicide, and it increases life satisfaction scores.
But there's a growing body of people who've been through puberty-changing hormones and certainly gone under the knife, who are having huge regret. And the trouble with that is you can't change your body back. You can annihilate people's ability to have children. This is life-changing. Back to the original point, why on earth should we be subjecting any toddlers or children to a scientific process which can damage their lives forever and can't be undone?
Well, the great thing is that toddlers and children haven't yet started puberty, so they don't need any puberty blockers and they don't need any hormones. So what the NHS is saying is that those young children under 7 can have access to gender services, but actually the great thing is they don't need puberty blockers or hormones because they're simply too young for that. So what they need is support and love and care, which the NHS is really marvellous at.
What they could have is access to support to help them talk through it. For example, there are many, many people who could happily go on to be happy gay people that believe that they are transsexual, and they could have therapy, they could have support, and they could learn to love who they are, not want to change who they are.
Absolutely, and I think that's the depth of this NHS initiative is exactly that. If your child is talking about their gender identity, expressing issues, concerns, questions, bring them to the specialised gender clinic and let's talk through it. And I think that's, and as I said at the beginning, it's a marvellous initiative from the NHS to not be ageist in any way about the people that they're happy to see. And they're going to get the specialist care. That's what the new clinics in the NHS are all about. Specialist care with specialist psychologists and counsellors and doctors. That's what we want. We want to give that to these children to make sure that they're making informed choices later on in life.
You don't think that having these kind of services for thousands of British children, there are 6,225 British children on waiting lists for this country. You don't think that having these kind of clinics in itself validates this kind of transition, this kind of journey? What we should actually be trying to do is have interventions to prevent children wanting to change their bodies, change their minds, damage their mental health, perhaps forever.
Well, I think we need to be careful we're not slipping into the realms of conversion therapy there. But I think, if we try and parallel that with other services, for example, we wouldn't say that eating disorder clinics were there to make your eating disorder worse. We wouldn't say that mental health clinics were there to make your mental health worse. We wouldn't say that autistic services were there to make autistic symptoms and children worse. They're there to support these people. That's what the whole idea of the NHS is, to support people to have better lives.
Yeah, but you don't. If you present with bulimia or anorexia, you're not encouraged to maintain your route down, the path towards starvation and losing weight. You're encouraged to return to a normal, healthy state. What you're proposing, you help children, toddlers, who present or say or claim or think, or they've been coerced, who knows what, into thinking that they're transgender. And you're saying that the way to treat them is to encourage them and facilitate their transition, rather than trying to intervene and say, are you sure this is the right thing, to try and, if you like, put them on the right path?
Well, I think we need to be careful about what the right path is. But certainly the role of a counsellor or psychologist in a child's gender clinic would be there to do exploration, how to best live your life, how to, is your gender different? Is it the same? It's about exploration. It's not about preferring one outcome or the other. It's not about preferring that child who's saying, I am transgender. It's not about preferring that they are not transgender, i.e. that they are cisgender. And it's not about encouraging them to be transgender. It's about giving them the space with professionals to talk through, and for the families as well, really important.
OK, Dr. Helen Webley, thank you very much for joining us on GBN Tonight. Thanks for your time. Sometimes I feel a mixture of either a fossil or an alien who's landed on a planet, and I just survey the terrain and think, what on earth is going on? Toddlers transitioning. Well, you've certainly got your views on so-called trans toddlers. Let's go through a couple of them now. Judy says this: complete madness. Children of this age have no concept of gender. I feel the clinics would be better off investigating why the parents would entertain such notions. There is something quite disturbing about anyone who would wish to harm their child in this way. And Paula adds this: leave our toddlers alone. When is this madness going to stop? It breaks my heart, these poor little mites. Now, a spokesperson from NHS England told GB News this: the primary objective of the service for children under the age of 7 is to provide support and guidance to the parents stroke carers, rather than to initiate clinical interactions with the child. The appropriateness of a referral of a child under 7 would first be agreed by paediatric or mental health specialists and the new Children and Young People's Gender Services through pre-referral consultation. Now up next, a shocking new dossier is warning that an astonishing 72,000 children may have been put at risk of falling prey to rape gangs in Keighley and the Bradford district alone. Could this be bigger than Rotherham? That's next.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Over the coming days, high pressure remains dominating our weather, which means lots of dry, settled weather, lots more sunshine to come, though it's eastern areas where it can often be cloudy and a lot cooler, and it's all thanks to high pressure sitting to the north of the country, dragging in a northeasterly flow, so more of a breeze here and much more cloud too. And we'll see that pattern as we head through this evening and overnight. More cloud clipping into southern parts of Scotland, northeastern parts of England, and then towards dawn across central and southern parts. This cloud quite low at times, possibly even bringing some mist and fog, but many areas should remain dry, rather clear, but that does mean temperatures are going to slip away, particularly across Scotland, perhaps even some rural frost by the time we reach the early hours of the morning. So to start, it could be a little bit chilly, perhaps some low cloud across the very far northeast of the country, perhaps eastern parts of Aberdeenshire, but otherwise largely dry, clear and similar across Northern Ireland and northern parts of England, though once again low cloud creeping into eastern counties. Elsewhere across England and Wales, a fairly bright start once again, still a little bit chilly, but warming up nicely through the course of the day. Once again, particularly western areas feeling very warm in wall-to-wall sunshine, but across eastern areas still that low cloud set to linger, still a decent breeze here too, so often feeling chillier with cloudier skies, but otherwise lots of warm sunshine, highs reaching around 23 degrees Celsius across the south. Then as we head into Saturday, the beginning of the weekend, likely a bit more cloud to start the morning, some mist and fog in places, but once again, eventually through the morning, we'll see it clear through, and by the afternoon, wall-to-wall blue skies, plenty of sunshine, but still a chance we could see that low cloud lingering across eastern areas, and it remains fairly similar as we turn into Sunday and Monday, with temperatures widely in the low 20s.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to GBN Tonight with me, Martin Daubry. Now, once again this evening at 9 p.m, it's Patrick Christie tonight, and here is the megastar of that show. Pat, what's on your menu?
Martin, thank you very much, mate. Well, literally in the last 30 seconds, I was walking into this room, I saw something online, we're trying to get this verified. It looks as though French police might have shut down one of the migrant camps that we exposed on Tuesday. So I'm going to try and make sure I can copper bottom that and then bring that to you. But that would be a great result, wouldn't it? Just shows you, though, if you actually go over there and expose what's going on, then maybe something happens about it. So I'm going to be talking about that. I'm going to be talking about Keir Starmer being humiliated by the Albanians, not for the first time. We're also going to be talking about prisons. We've got an exclusive for you here on GB News that a man who climbed the fence and darted out of a prison in full view of Sophie Reaper, our reporter, and her cameras, has still not been found. So, yeah, all of that and much, much more coming your way, 9 to 11 p.m.
I'll tell you what, Patrick, if you have got a result there, if your journalism, which, by the way, was astonishing, if you've been over there and got that camp closed down, you'll have done more than many of our elected representatives have simply within 48 hours. Patrick Christie tonight, 9 till 11, top man on the island. Now, a shocking new dossier about the extent of child rape gangs was yesterday presented to the Safeguarding Minister, Jess Phillips. And the dossier was compiled by the leading child abuse lawyer, David Greenwood. And it warns the government that more than 72,000 children in Britain may have been at risk of child sexual exploitation across Keighley and Bradford district alone. It also highlights years of systemic failures by Bradford Council and their partner agencies. Now, despite all of this, senior leaders in Bradford Council and across the West Yorkshire Mayoralty, which has responsibility for the West Yorkshire Police, shamefully, they continue to reject calls for a full public inquiry. And one of those present at that meeting was the Conservative MP and the Shadow Minister, Robbie Moore, who joins me in the studio now. Robbie, welcome to the studio. You've been pushing so hard on this issue. Well done for that. I mean, this is very, very important work. The thing I find incredible about this is that this has been going on since 1996. It could be bigger than Rotherham, and yet to this day, there's no appetite for an inquiry.
And it's really frustrating because it should be the difference between right and wrong. And actually, I think it's been going on way before 96, but that's when statistics started to be looked at. And we had a meeting with David Greenwood, who is an expert in his field, has represented many of those on the Rotherham cases that have had the most horrendous, heinous crimes of child sexual exploitation put against them. And the two of us had a meeting with Jess Phillips, the Safeguarding Minister, presented a dossier in advance of that meeting, which has concluded by David that approximately 72,000 children across that period of time, and the report states that it could be more, have been exposed to child sexual abuse, child sexual exploitation across Keighley and the wider Bradford district. And when you think about that, that is horrendous, especially when Bradford Council, our Mayor of West Yorkshire, the Deputy Mayor for Policing of West Yorkshire, are still refusing consistently to get behind the calls for an inquiry to get to the bottom of this across the Bradford district.
It's almost incomprehensible in its scale. That's like a football stadium, a Wembley, full of kids across the years who've been let down, who've been betrayed, who've been abused, who simply haven't been listened to. You presented this dossier to Jess Phillips. She's been under a lot of fire for her position. How did she react?
Well, to be fair to the Safeguarding Minister, she is in listening mode. But to be frank, I'm beyond listening mode. Right, action is required now. I've consistently raised this issue since getting elected to represent Keighley and the wider area for since 2019, and yet there has been no action over that period of time. And now the current Safeguarding Minister is not announcing where there will be additional inquiries. We've seen an announcement back in January, earlier this year, that there will be 5 local inquiries, but we still don't know where they are. And now the update is we're waiting for the Casey review to come out. Well, I'm fed up waiting. We need action now, and so do those victims and those survivors.
Robbie, thank you very, very much. Now, I believe we have some breaking news right now, and we have to cross to Mark White. Mark, what do you got for us?
Well, a major development in the investigation into those suspected arson attacks at properties linked to Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer. Confirmation just within the last few minutes that a 21-year-old man, a Ukrainian national, has now been charged with 3 counts of arson, with the potential for endangering life. So that man, 21-year-old, has been named as Roman Lavrinovich from Sydenham. So he is still in police custody. We're told that he will appear at Westminster Magistrates Court tomorrow. I'll be there for that hearing, clearly. But this relates, you'll remember, to a firebomb attack on a property, the family home of Sir Keir Starmer in Kentish Town, on Monday night, the early hours of Monday morning, 1 a.m. in the morning, when residents were woken by the sound of a loud bang and then a fireball in the entrance to that property. the previous Thursday, a car that used to be owned by Sir Keir Starmer that he had sold to a neighbour on that street in Kentish Town was also set ablaze. And then just a day before the attack on the house in Kentish Town, another property that was linked to Sir Keir Starmer years ago was also attacked, it seems, in a very similar method to the attack in Kentish Town, with the entrance to that building targeted. So just to confirm, major breaking developments tonight with the Crown Prosecution Service and the Metropolitan Police Counter-Terror Command confirming that a 21-year-old man, Roman Lavrinovich, a Ukrainian national from Sydenham in London, has now been charged and will appear at Westminster Magistrates Court tomorrow.
Thank you, Mark White, for that dramatic update. As you say there, a man charged with 3 counts of arson against the Prime Minister Keir Starmer's properties. A Ukrainian national charged with that. Incredible breaking news, and that, of course, will follow that throughout tomorrow. Thank you very much, Mark White, for joining us. And we have a right reply on the previous story there, of course, and that was with Robbie Moore on the scandal in the Keighley area of Bradford. And the Home Office spokesperson told GB News this: the grooming scandal was one of the greatest failures in our country's history, with vulnerable young people let down time and again. And this government is wholly dedicated to delivering justice for all victims. We have already committed to supporting local authorities through our £5 million fund for local areas, the best practice framework for local inquiries, and commissioned a rapid national audit to uncover the true scale of grooming gangs in the UK today, including looking at ethnicity. And just to reiterate that GB News has also approached Bradford Council for comment, but we're yet to hear back. And finally, thank you very much to Robbie Moore MP for Keighley and Ilkley for coming in to see us tonight. Excellent work. Thank you. Now, coming next, Labour's flagship net zero policy, GB Energy, has today become law and will receive over £8 billion of British taxpayers' money. But will this spark a brighter energy future? We'll just burn through a mountain of taxpayers' cash. That's next.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Whilst widespread sunny skies return to the UK, rain clears Italy but pushes into Greece, where it will become increasingly windy by Friday. Fairly breezy for the Canaries, but mostly fine here with partly cloudy skies across Spain, Portugal into Gibraltar. 1 or 2 showers, otherwise plenty of sunshine. But for Italy, it's been very unsettled here, particularly in the south. We do have the rain and the wind pushing now into Greece, where it will be unsettled for a few days before turning brighter later.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to GBN Tonight with me, Martin Daubney. Now, the Great British Energy Bill has today received royal assent, and that means it's officially now become British law. And the Act establishes the UK's new state-backed energy firm, backed by £8.3 billion of your money. That's right, it's bankrolled by the British taxpayer. However, earlier this year, the GB Energy chair, Jürgen Mayer, admitted it could take up to 20 years to meet the target of employing 1,000 people and declined to give even a timeline when the company might finally lower our energy bills. So will this multi-billion-pound gamble pay off, or is it just a load of hot air, enough hot air to power an army of turbines? Well, joining me now to discuss this is Dr. Rupert Reed, the founder of the Climate Majority Project and the author of Why Climate Breakdown Matters. Dr. Reed, welcome to the show. Let's face it, it's come into law, but there's no evidence whatsoever that it'll do the most important thing that most people care about, bring down our energy bills.
Well, basically what this new law is about making it easier for this country to have renewable energy like wind and solar. And wind and solar are now the cheapest forms of energy there is. So it seems to me that in that way, it makes quite clear sense.
Are they really the cheapest forms of energy? When you factor in the cost of manufacturing the turbines, the cost of manufacturing the solar panels, if you factor all of that in, is it really cheaper? And if it were, why aren't countries, beg your pardon, such as the United States, who are turbo boosting towards growth, why aren't they using it?
Yes, it is cheaper when you factor all those things in. In the United States, they have been using it for the past several years. Biden made a far larger investment than Starmer has made, actually, in renewables. Trump is turning that around, unfortunately. That's not for any economic reason. That's simply because he's a cheerleader for fossil fuels in an incredibly stupid and short-sighted way.
Why is it incredibly stupid and short-sighted when they have energy bills that we can only dream of in the United Kingdom? Why is it, if net zero, the pursuit of the ideology, is so blessed, so welcome, why does the United Kingdom have the most expensive energy prices in the Western world?
That is a good question. The answer is complicated, but the biggest single part of the answer is that the energy companies are ripping us off. So I suggest that rather than criticize renewable energy, you go to the companies that are ripping off ordinary taxpayers.
Well, let's think about that, because Chris O'Shea is the CEO of Centrica, which is the parent company of British Gas, said today net zero will definitely not reduce the price of electricity.
Look, Centrica is one of the companies that's ripping you off. Obviously, they're not going to tell you the truth. Just like I'm afraid GB News isn't going to tell you the truth because you're owned by Paul Marshall, who is a fossil fuel magnate.
Stop playing the man and play the ball. People care about cheap energy. We were told our bills would be £300 a year, better off, cheaper, by Ed Miliband before the election. They're going up and up and up, and the zealotry is one thing. The reality is the bills aren't getting any cheaper. That's what people truly care about.
Zealotry. Your bias is very obvious. You're just playing the tune.
Show me the evidence. When will our bills get cheaper?
That your boss wants you to play. I come on this channel quite often, and every single time it's the same story. Every single time you slag off renewable energy and cheerlead for fossil fuels. Could that possibly be anything to do with the fact that GBNews is owned?
No, it isn't. It's nothing to do with that. It's nothing to do with that. The British public. No, it's not.
And your channel is
you work for you were a political strategist for Extinction Rebellion. We know your regime too. We know your agenda. People want cheaper energy. We were promised that. We were promised cheaper energy by you lot, by Ed Miliband. We haven't got it. Don't have a go at me. Don't have a go at GB News. Where is the evidence to deliver on the promise that you lot made?
You just contradicted yourself. You said play the man, not the ball, and then you started playing the man.
You started the game, mate. It takes two to tango. Where are the cheaper bills?
Your channel has no integrity. You have no integrity.
You can't answer the question, can you? You can't answer the question, and so you're going for me.
Renewable energy is consistently now the cheapest form of energy in this country. Wind is the cheapest of all by far. Nuclear is way more expensive. Fossil is much more expensive.
So when do our bills go down?
In making stupid accusations.
When do our bills go down then? Next year?
Well, our bills will go down
next
when
decade,
we actually get serious
before
about
the unicorns
this.
fly.
This government does not go nearly far enough in terms of bringing in renewable energy and in terms of retrofitting our houses. We're heating the sky. Many of our houses do not have loft insulation. Where's the investment going into that? Why don't you ask the government that question rather than criticising them when they actually do something useful?
OK, we'll leave it there. Dr. Rupert Reed, the founder of the Climate Majority Project. I think we achieved something there. Now let's get back to the studio, because coming up next is State of the Nation with Alex Armstrong. Alex! Follow that. What's on your menu?
I don't know if I could follow that interview. I will tell you that everything we say here, no one pays me to say anything, actually, Martin. I just say what I think. Well, we'll be talking about Keir Starmer's trip to Albania, and we're going to be asking, is it going to do anything to achieve those record-breaking small boat crossings in the UK? I don't think it will, but we'll see what our panel think about that. We'll also talk about that shocking NHS story. They are now evaluating trans toddlers. Can you believe it? We're going to dig into that. We've got some great guests coming down the line for that one. Gary Lineker's deleted tweets, post. We'll talk about that, and a spy thriller between Ukraine and Hungary.
Superbs of that State of the Nation next with Alex Armstrong. Thanks for joining me tonight. What a show that was, though. Here's your weather with Honor Critic.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Over the coming days, high pressure remains dominating our weather, which means lots of dry, settled weather, lots more sunshine to come, though it's eastern areas where it can often be cloudy and a lot cooler, and it's all thanks to high pressure sitting to the north of the country, dragging in a northeasterly flow, so more of a breeze here and much more cloud too. And we'll see that pattern as we head through this evening and overnight. More cloud clipping into southern parts of Scotland, northeastern parts of England, and then towards dawn across central and southern parts. This cloud quite low at times, possibly even bringing some mist and fog, but many areas should remain dry, rather clear, but that does mean temperatures are going to slip away, particularly across Scotland, perhaps even some rural frost by the time we reach the early hours of the morning. So to start, it could be a little bit chilly, perhaps some low cloud across the very far northeast of the country, perhaps eastern parts of Aberdeenshire, but otherwise largely dry, clear and similar across Northern Ireland and northern parts of England, though once again low cloud creeping into eastern counties. Elsewhere across England and Wales, a fairly bright start once again, still a little bit chilly, but warming up nicely through the course of the day. Once again, particularly western areas feeling very warm in wall-to-wall sunshine, but across eastern areas still that low cloud set to linger, still a decent breeze here too, so often feeling chillier with cloudier skies, but otherwise lots of warm sunshine, highs reaching around 23 degrees Celsius across the south.
Then as we head into Saturday, the beginning of the weekend, likely a bit more cloud to start the morning, some mist and fog in places, but once again, eventually through the morning, we'll see it clear through, and by the afternoon, wall-to-wall blue skies, plenty of sunshine, but still a chance we could see that low cloud lingering across eastern areas, and it remains fairly similar as we turn into Sunday and Monday, with temperatures widely in the low 20s.
Expect a warm front moving from the kitchen